Okay. This is really me putting myself out there and being vulnerable. I'm not sure that it makes any difference because I don't really think this is going to be watched, because on my YouTube dashboard I can see what videos have been watched and how many times and how long the duration of the watch was. So I don't think that anything has been watched. Oh, hello. It is a fuzzy dog making a cameo. And probably being neurotic. Yep. Can you please lay down and be normal? Can you lay down? You can. What a good boy, yes. With his binky. Okay. So, first and foremost, I do want to make it very clear that I will continue adhering to the vision therapy homework tasks and strict spectacle wearing. I will continue to live and fail by my ultimate compliance. On my tombstone, it's going to be, I died trying, and I tried to tell you. Related. I want to discuss, apparently with myself, because nobody's watching the videos, and they're all set to private, the glasses evaluation on Tuesday. It was quite draining to watch my husband try to advocate for me. I'm very accustomed to not really being heard or listened to or understood. Honestly, I suspect that you might also share this experience. I want everyone to know that I do understand the difference between an objective test and measurement and a patient subjective report in a clinical setting. They are not the same. You can't treat what you can't observe. Roger that. But it turns out that I must be the person to still attempt to see and sort of function normally in the meantime. And it may be a long meantime. But, okay, so it'll be a long meantime. However, after Tuesday's evaluation, I realized that it doesn't really matter what I am actually seeing. I couldn't help but notice that you, too, failed entirely to support or soothe my husband's concerns about my seemingly random, but constant when it occurs, accommodative spasm, or whatever it is that to the untrained looks and feels like some sort of accommodative spasm. You explained upon our arrival to the office that you were there to help answer questions. But did you really have an opportunity? I mean, not that anyone could really get a word in edgewise at all, really. What we were really concerned about is... Please don't be weird, dog. Come here. Bear, come. Why is he like this? What we were really concerned about is this generally the expectation at this point in the treatment? Like, okay, so you're here, yes. This makes sense. We're expecting a version of this. Things like that. Or maybe, yes, this is a common but temporary complaint that many patients experience. Cool. I mean, that means we're still on the path, even if it's uncomfortable for a while. And I have been uncomfortable due to treatments for a very long time. So what's another 12 weeks, really? I wanted to go back and verify my treatment plan and the timeline that y'all provided for me, just to make sure that I understood and keep reasonable expectations that I had for how this was going to go down and what the outcomes would be. The plan stated about 24 sessions, so at over 6 weeks, we are a quarter of the way there, and also the 24 sessions was a significantly smaller forecast than Dr. Conley's, which was a range starting at a minimum of 36 weeks. So far, the only major difference in my experience with vision therapy has been that you and I did the Brock string on week 5, and previously Megan introduced it on week 4. Unfortunately for me, that 1 week delay does not seem to have made all that much of a difference. I will be diligently trying my best regardless. I noticed that part of the provided treatment plan from y'all also stated the following, quote, verbatim. Bethany has been prescribed neurotherapeutic lenses. The purpose of therapeutic lenses is to expand visual space, okay, that was covered, thereby improving visual attention, decrease stress on focusing, allowing better convergence, and improve visual attention, which is actually mentioned twice in the same sentence, but okay. Decrease stress on focusing, you say, is the point of the lenses, eh? That is extremely interesting. As I say, it's a bit surprising when my primary complaint was experiencing an intermittent, but maintained for several hours, total lack of focus. What was this? Decrease stress on focusing. Maybe I'm just like not supposed to focus at all. Excellent. I would have appreciated. These are designed to prevent you from being able to focus. Got it. That means they're working. Which, okay. So, moving on, experiencing a temporary small increase in blur makes sense to me. And I might even be convinced of fluctuating depth perceptions. After all, psychosomatic changes will not be linear. Some days will be better and others will, of course, be oddly worse. Bodies and brains especially are not a perfect science and we aren't machines. But I am trying to tell you that everything is tending to look alarmingly blurry and flat. The almost resolved diplopia that was reinstated by the last attempt at therapy lenses also returns occasionally once again. So it's very sparse, but it's, oh, there's 2. Oh, there's 2. Oh, there's 2. That's part of it, right? Okay. So, also, I have a newly developed semi-regular experience of now I bump into walls and doors more. So that's cool. While I've never been known for being unclumsy, I definitely was not known for clumsiness. This is odd. I was just a regular-ish person, and now it's like I'm functioning as though I'm drunk when I am sober. This is odd. Okay, so perhaps it might be helpful if anyone at all was able to attempt to consider why I might be alarmed when I ask, so then the therapy glasses should definitely make the Brock string more difficult. Like, that's the goal, yes? And the response is, well, it might be harder, it might be easier, which was mentioned 3 times. Like, bro, I heard you the first time. But I'm telling you, I'm letting you know that I have done the Brock's ring recently, pre-getting the glasses, and then with the glasses, and discovered, oh my, this is much more difficult. So I'm asking, the glasses should definitely be doing this, because that is what is happening. And the response was that now you will be verifying this experience, that it's more difficult with the glasses than without, for me next week. Okay, so to make sure I understand, when I come in next week, you are going to let me know if it's harder for me with or without the glasses or not. Doesn't that seem odd? Or, I mean, is there anything else that you're going to let me know whether or not it's hard for me? Okay. So, if I'm just going to be told what my visual experience is like, regardless of what I'm actually experiencing, then why are you asking for feedback on how well I can see or how well the vision therapy homework has gone, if I just have to wait for you to be the one to tell me how it is and how it's going? It has been over 5 months since I picked up the first pair of glasses. That's almost half a year. And it just doesn't seem like y'all really have much of an idea as to what seems to be going on, or why it would be quite this miserable and difficult for you to treat. And what's really discouraging is when I went back in after the other glasses had the severe minus push my left eye in, the guy that saw me was like, maybe we can decrease the minus a little bit. And I was like, I already have those. And if that was working, I wouldn't be here at all, because that would have solved the problem and we'd be done. And I said, hey, what if we do a plano distance glass with a prism base out, and then a large and tall bifocal, because I read a lot, because a bifocal plus will help to diverge. Then with a distance contact, looking over the top, and the manual, if you will, prism base out, well, we are going to diverge these eyes. And the lady that saw me was like, yeah, seems reasonable. It's because you're working against the minus, which is canceling out the prism. Like, yikes. So she went back to check with the guy, and he was like, he didn't quite say, could you just shut up and wear your therapy glasses? Like, this has to work. This is the law. This is your prescription. This is what we do for you. This is going to work for you. Okay, let's have some double vision, and then we can be like, huh, that's weird. I guess no one knows. But I know. And I also know that my vision was not always like this. So, I want to check in and ask how you will know when to hold and when to fold your cards professionally. The Brock's ring historically never improved for me, and I mean, we worked on it for a while. It was June of 2019 all the way to the end of 2020, and it was, I don't know, I kind of feel like a lot of vision therapy is, here's what's wrong with you, and we're going to do this and this and this, and it's going to work, and it's going to be great. Well, what happens if that's not the experience? Because, like, brains are neuroplastic. That's the point of the glasses, is you can change what you're putting in and get something else, and you kind of got to wait and be patient and see what happens and adjust accordingly. No one seems to be adjusting accordingly, so it's like, there's a point in trying. I will absolutely try, but there's no point in providing feedback, because it doesn't matter. We're just going to move on to the next thing. If I can't do it, I probably either didn't try hard enough or just could never do it, even though that just isn't the case. There are things of which I could once do and now no longer can. So the only time that the Brock string improved for me was when I was abandoned and was like, I gotta do something. I like seeing. And I did some intermittent work on my own out of frustration. And that was when I learned that, like, hey, there's evidence that I can eventually do this with time and practice. So then, if, as the man said, speaking of, you don't want to move too much or move too much at once or too soon, then why not have started my therapy lenses at the personally drastically more stereoscopic for me base out 2? Because when I put a base out 2 flipper in front of my distance contacts, life looks as expected. The Brock string looks stabler, because it still isn't great, because I mean I still have the same issues, but wow, I'm not having to work as hard to achieve the goal. Put the X where you want it, where you're looking, see some distance, turn the eyes on. But I see we're starting with a base out 3. Okay. And it doesn't matter that it is uncomfortable and making things flat and causing some intermittent sparse diplopia or such blurry vision that, I mean, drunk people can see better than that. I cannot read the license plate parked at a stoplight in front of me when my eyes do that. And I feel like that is an expected therapeutic outcome. Yes? Right. It's frightening because I'm saying, hey, this seems like something I should be concerned about, and I'm getting told that I will be informed about whether or not I can see clearly. Okay. Remember, I died trying, and I died trying to tell you. So, from my perspective, if you are familiar with the dogs that were shocked in a closed crate randomly, they were the learned helplessness experiment that is famous if you're into psych. They were, just randomly shocked, and, they would bark or whatever, cry, and nobody would come and get the dogs. Well, puppies, actually, it's very sad. And they were physically incapable of, getting out. Because at first they tried to communicate, they tried to bark for help or cry. They tried to be self-sufficient and do everything they knew to do to get out of the crates where the floor was shocking them. And then they reached this point where it was like, no one is coming, no one can hear me, barking doesn't do any good, crying doesn't help, and I have tried repeatedly to get out every single way. This is it. So they decided, I assume, in their little puppy brains, why expend all of that energy to try to get out, to try and communicate that something is wrong, if it doesn't change what's happening to you with the shocks, and it doesn't seem to do any good or retrieve any help. So, I hope the glasses are working. The only thing that I can rest assured is, well, at least it hasn't been the same unfathomable amount of time, and at least the visual symptoms are not quite as severe as what happened to me through the vision therapy that I had with Dr. Conley and Megan. But, hey, at least I know that given time I can eventually have my eyes go back to their presenting 2019 baseline. I just have to be patient. And in order to know that I went down trying my best to do everything therapeutically that everybody wanted and demanded and said, if you do this perfectly, the way that I say, then it will work. And if it doesn't work, then you didn't do it perfect, which is why we have the videos, because I want you people to know I'm holding up my end of the deal. And you know, it's weird because, you know, for a short time I did work as a family therapist. I didn't really like it. I like more active jobs better, so I did a lot of teaching for guards and yoga and Pilates. But when a client family came to me, the first thing that I wanted to ferret out was as much information about what have you tried before? You guys went to therapy? Cool. Tell me everything about what worked and what didn't. Because I don't want to waste my time or the family's by trying to do the same thing just because I felt like I needed to do it my way. Granted, as a person who also trained lifeguards, all I cared about is, are you street legal to work in the state of Texas, which includes your lifeguard certification. I don't even care who did the certifying, because there's lots of certifying agencies, because as soon as you're on my payroll, I can train you the way that I want you to behave. So I understand both. But even with a lifeguard that I know that I'm going to train my way, I still want to know, what information do they come with? How much groundwork am I going to need to lay, and how much am I going to need to correct? You know, nobody's really asked about any of my patient history, and that is okay. But when I went back through my patient files, I found all kinds of crazy things. First of all, everyone agreed vision therapy and maybe therapy glasses. Not everybody thought that therapy glasses were like a great idea. I like the idea of therapy glasses because all of the research says therapy glasses are going to work. Yes, very pumped. And I mean, hey, we can already see evidence of something happening. So this is promising. Although I'm still a bit concerned because of what the experience is like for me. So, this having been said, I've gone off script. Where was I talking about? How? Wouldn't want to repeat the mistakes. Want to know what I'm working with. Therapy glasses are great. Ah, what everybody found. Okay. Even though my initial 2019 referring plain Jane regular Denton optometrist mentioned to me, you know, like, your right eye turns in a little bit. And I'm like, yeah, okay, tell me something I don't know. Because that wasn't really the problem. It was that I wasn't getting, like, I'm not giving her any good information as far as the phoropter. When she, you know, you print out the Exodus paperwork or whatever, it mentioned exotropia, and I am like, oh, that is just not a thing. Like, what? Are you okay? But then, as I was looking through Megan and Dr. Conley's notes, I found lots of crazy things, like, what are you seeing in, you know, day-to-day notes or weekly notes or whatever. And, okay, frequently, yes, esotropia, not a surprise. But then it was, which alignment was your esotropia? Okay, this makes sense. And they said sometimes left, sometimes right, and one time they even said alternating. Okay. So it's getting more chaotic the more you tamper with things. That is normal. Okay. So wonderful. Then they also mentioned on two separate, further apart occasions, under like diagnostic tests, and not just like Megan being herself. This was like Dr. Conley noted test result of hypertropia, which you did mention, and I also know is incredibly difficult to treat. Cool. And when I do the various activities, like recently, didn't seem as bad today. Maybe we're done with that and it's like not going to be a thing. But with the therapy glasses, I was noticing that the third item that I was seeing was like higher. You know, you have your purposefully induced temporary diplopia when we do various activities, splitting the images behind. Okay, yes. And this image, the false image that was generated would be like elevated. Now that cannot be good. Doesn't seem to have been a thing today. Really hopeful that we're done with that and that I never have that experience again. But it's also frightening because that's a new symptom. That's worse. Let's go back to the not having as many symptoms, please. So there's that. One thing that I noticed across all boards is that no one seems to like get how much inward looking I'm doing. And I realize that as a patient, I have absolutely no idea what in the world is going on. So fine. Write off what I'm saying. Except for don't, because I was the one that came up with the Plano glass idea because the other broski told me just shut up and wear your therapy glasses. Like, this is the deal. No one caught, except for me, that the heavy minus would counteract the intention of the prism base out. Which I discovered because out of curiosity, just to figure out, like, why is this hard for everyone involved? I read like a college textbook on like the care of the patient or whatever, and I found a portion that talked about like how your eye behaves with the lenses and what that would mean for strabismatic patients. So I'm like, guys, I'm a regular person. And I just curiously used Google Scholar to be like, oh, well, that's why this is difficult, because you have two conflicting psychosomatic experiences being put in front of the person's face simultaneously. But I shouldn't be the one that knows the most about treating me. I should be the one that knows the most about what my experience is like. So, I do a lot of inward looking and also have worn heavy minus glasses and contacts off and on forever, right? Well, if you're minus at like somewhere in the -3 to -5 range, and the glass, you know, like when you have the clear glass with the straw and it looks, you know, bent or whatever because of the water in the glass refraction. And so similarly, and I mean this like microscopic, but over lots of time and lots of big minus and inward looking, yeah, it's going to take that cross where things should be meeting and it's going to be too far in, because that's where it is for you. Your eyes are being neurologically pushed a little bit too far in by the glass and you are looking inward a lot, and you're looking close in a distance lens, so your poor little focusing muscles are just trying to see. And it's like, my God, no wonder that I come in and it's like, I can't see anything in the distance. Well, yeah. How on earth could I? My eyes cannot biomechanically diverge anymore because the lenses and my reading habits have taught them that inward we go. I mean, gracious sakes, y'all. So, I mean, okay, so I'm here now, so now what? Why do I point all this out? Well, obviously, convergence is going to be a problem no matter what because it's too far in. Yes, we're on this. Developing convergence that is accurate and with control. Very critical. But do you know what would also be cool? Addressing my primary complaint when I came to Dr. Conley, which was that I couldn't read street signs anymore. Everything was just blurry until I was like right up on it. Well, okay, what was the blur about? I mean, what would I know? I'm just the only one that figured out not to do the heavy minus with the base out prisms, but I'm just saying that with the excessive inward minus for so long for me, and then, you know, sure, we can diverge some, but not enough anymore. That was sort of the problem. I mean, part of it, okay, divergence, and then also those muscles have been used to so much inward looking as far as the accommodation. So convergence, divergence, that's not happening because heavy refractive error minus n, and also because of lack of doing it. I've been looking inward. So, okay, that's twofold. But then also the actual focusing muscles have been excessively focusing through said heavy minus lens on something that is close. And so then to let all those muscles change, I mean, I'm not even flexible. And it took me 4 years as a yoga instructor to be able to regularly lengthen my hamstrings and get down to my toes with my knees fully lengthened and not locked out, because locking out any joints is bad. But my point is, if I'm that inflexible in my hamstrings and such, hamstrings, hips, and Achilles tendons, what do you bet a similar stiffness might be there for those tiny muscles? A thought. So, okay, right, all my muscles are old and flexible, great. Now, granted, I think at the time, those skills could have been, you know, strengthened and trained. I still think that those skills can be strengthened and trained, and I see that we are working on that with the near and far chart. Heck yes, this is good stuff. So there's that, but it's twofold for me. Also, the anisometropia, or whatever it is, where, or anisoconia, anisophoria, where, I mean, it's documented in my thing, but the size discrepancy. Okay, yeah, this eye, everything is kind of smooshed and also blurry and smaller. And then over here, it's, you know, larger and more spaced out and much more sharp of a picture. Now, I've mentioned, okay, the eyes can't turn out as much as they should for 2 large reasons. Well, 3 maybe. But also, the differences between and the slow to act, that's going to make the street signs blurry because you're driving the car at 30 miles an hour and you have passed it by the time your eyes have had a moment to try to catch up. And so it's like always playing this game of catch up where the eyes are not diverging enough and the focusing is not ever getting out as far as it needs to. And then there's this thing about suppression. It occurs to no one except for me that the, you know why the sign is blurry? because it's blurry and squished over here and small, and it's not over here. And even if those pictures are not perfectly aligned, if they're pretty close and both of those eyes are turned on, let's go with rapidly, and sort of around the same time, yeah, it's going to be blurry because it's blurry for one of them. That's literally the problem, is that it didn't turn off, because if this eye had just suppressed, I wouldn't be complaining about blurry signs, because this eye can see all of the signs fine. Like, I mean, that's what I do when I'm at the stoplight. So I wouldn't have noticed if this eye had been suppressing. That was my complaint to my original referring eye doctor, is it's not clear. So there is that. And of course, also when I had spent all of the day teaching, where the field of focus is further out, the drive home would be fine, but when I had to grade the students' exams, I would have to go take my contacts out because I'd need to get this close. That was how I could see to score the exams. So there's that. I also noticed that autostereograms are like super sharp and clear when I do them with no refractive corrections. And I mean, I've done all the possible combinations of distance contacts with a +2 lens over top, these situations, a -4 reading glass because it's not as strong of a distance glass, distance glasses, just contacts by themselves for distance, or the multifocal lenses. I mean, if there is a combination, I have tried to do it. And the only time that an autostereogram is crystal clear and matte, they look cool, is when I have no refractive error correction at all. And okay, yeah, like as it's close to my face, fine. But it's so sharp. And it's an autostereogram, for God's sakes. So it's not going to be there if an eye is suppressed. So that is a thing, and I am very curious as to why putting refractive correction over my eyes pisses them off so much, and then everything becomes blurry, which includes, to an extent, contacts. Okay, is there anything else that I feel I should cover? Yes. We need to talk about diplopia. Now, there's the kind that happen on accident, like when you put the previously prescribed therapy glasses that did not work out, and it's like, should I have flat double vision? No, maybe not. Okay. There's a version of diplopia due to the therapeutic lens. Fine. Then there is something is wrong diplopia. Okay. But then there's the diplopia that a patient causes because that's what the vision therapist said that you're supposed to do. The temporary diplopias. So the Brock string would not be one, but well, necessarily by my example, but like it's QUIOTS, quoits. You know, they've got a bunch of transparency skills that you can do with the polarized lenses, or without, depending upon what the skill is. And the a lot of the skills are look through this and then make two of the target. So if you have a target on the ground and you've got the sheets and you're supposed to do something or other to make two, okay, I do understand the nature of how the light is being bent with the transparencies and also received by the glasses will cause too. Yes, I understand. However, there's something that I feel bears discussing. So now, thanks to having to tough it out with all the prescriptions provided to me since February from y'all, if I try to put makeup on with contacts, so, you know, not with the glasses, because I ain't gonna put your makeup on, I'll do makeup with just the contacts in, whether or not it's a distance contact or the multifocal, it doesn't really matter. The same experience happens. What that experience is the following. Say I'm putting on mascara, so you want to have both of your eyes open because you'll stab yourself with a wand on accident. However, I have noticed that I have not exactly a strabismatic eye turn, but like a sharp amblyopic turn. It used to, when I was a child, like a wee child. So I was, you know, born in the 80s, right? And the only thing of note that I can tell you about my physiology is that I had a hip torsion when I was born. I don't know which hip. Might have been both. I don't know what direction or how much or anything. Just that I had to sleep in some kind of a contraption. End medical hip history. Which is not very helpful. But okay. Also, I had to wear a patch. I do remember that, and I do remember the drops. Fun times. And then that's it. I stopped wearing the patch because we were done. I had the patch, and I had the far-sighted distance glasses with, I assume, the near or minus bifocal or whatever you do for little kids. I don't know. And I was extremely farsighted when I was born. But like we finished, and by the time I hit the 4th grade, I actually had like 20/20 in both eyes and stereopsis and no eye turn. So like, huzzah, we're done! Great! So, excellent. And then I didn't need to wear any lens correction because my vision was 20/20 with the Snellen chart for the 4th grade and the 5th grade and then the 6th grade and then most of the 7th. So like doing good. And then I got astigmatism. Cool. So then I did the soft contacts for a while, and then eventually switched to a combination of contacts for when I wanted them, and then glasses when my eyes would get tired. And then for a while I kind of decided, contacts, I guess I'll take the prescription, but it's so much trouble. And then I would just wear them when I wanted to do something like go work out, where you're going to get all sweaty and you don't want to have sweat all over your glasses. Or if I did something more active, then okay, yeah, contacts. I should not have done that. I should have worn contacts for as long as possible, and now we know. But okay, so this all being said and described, there was one thing that I learned that I had the capacity to do when I was around in the 4th grade. Didn't seem to have any purpose. Nobody noticed, never showed up on any tests that anyone did. But here we go. I could pick a target and hyper-focus on it with my left eye, so that my left eye would be straight on looking at whatever it was, the person, the target, didn't matter, and my right eye would be sharply rotated into my nose. And then the person would see 2 images when this would happen. So I've got this eye here and this one here, So this is the direction the eyeballs are pointing intentionally because I am hyper-focusing here. And when this happens, I see two images. The true image, or rather the less translucent image, is perceived for me to be on the left where I am looking. And then there would be a fainter, more translucent, kind of fuzzy secondary image of whatever it is I'm hyper-focusing on over to the right of the more solid image. So, okay, clear fuzz. And then, as I released my eyes back to what I hope was a coordinated position, the eye would, turn to where it might be okay, and the right image that was fuzzy would slide over here into the left, which to me seems kind of weird because that doesn't seem to be like what the experience is like when we do work in vision therapy, but okay. So this being said, there is a skill of which I can do. Let's see if I can do it for the camera. Okay, so here's me, and I realize that my eyes are gonna like not be aligned because, that's why I'm getting treatment. However, this is the shape. And I'm doing it at will. And there is a fuzzy Bethany over here. And then when I let my eyes return to baseline, if you will, now there's just one Bethany and the world is sort of clear. As clear as can be expected under the circumstances. So, no one in any of these practices, because it's been y'all and Dr. Conley and also UT Southwestern, for Christ's sakes, no one has seen or said anything about that at all. Like, is there no test for that? Because I feel like that is a thing of which someone somewhere should notice and be like, not just, that's weird, but like, hey, that might have some kind of an effect, or it means something, or it means why this isn't working. Somebody say something. At any rate, when it goes the other way during the makeuping, I've actually started to notice sort of a similar after effect on the other side. So maybe that's good. It's hard to get my hopes up at this point. I don't really have any hope. I'm just like, look, we already paid for this, so we are going to be faithful to the very end. And hey, maybe we'll see some improvement, and that would be fantastic. But also, like, it is definitely difficult to keep my hopes up at this point. So, is there anything else that I feel like I need to add? No, I don't. But I feel also like I have given you guys so much information, and I hope that any of it is beneficial in like, okay, so this is what we're really working with. This is how we can help her. Which is another reason, like, doubling things is like, okay, I just told you that if I make my eyes positioned like this, then I'll be able to make a double. Yes, but my eyes aren't behaving in line. Like, they're not, that might be brain eye teaming, but as far as alignment, that is not eye teaming at all. That is an odd amblyopia, because the rules are that if you have amblyopia, especially if you're using it to focus, then the other eye has got to be suppressing. It's not. That is what I am trying to tell you. But I told you that the Brock string was harder with the therapy glasses, and you told me, no, it's not. So I'm gonna go down trying, and I have legitimately tried to tell you. Okay, I will continue to keep my head down, to do all of the vision therapy homework activities to the best of my ability, and I will continue to document just in case you guys see things that need to be fielded out and corrected early on, so that I'm not doing this kind of a doubling number when that's not the idea. That's why I want you to be able to see my eye alignment in the videos so much. And you know, when you guys ask me how did it go during the vision therapy homework, I'm gonna tell you it went fine, because it doesn't really matter what I say. It was made pretty painfully apparent on Tuesday. And when I go in for the 4-opter exam, I'm just gonna tell you that it's fine. I'll try to read the rows as best I can. But it also does bear mentioning that if it takes me a long time to stretch into various poses as far as like physical flexibility with yoga, what if it takes a while for my eye muscles to adjust to whatever the 4-opter change is? So, I'm saying like I can tell there's a difference, but I can't tell what. Maybe that's because it takes a really long time for that right eye to do any adjusting, for example. I'm probably totally off. Like, that's not a thing that happens to anybody's eyes, but there is that. It actually reminded me of something else. Wonder what it was. Oh, well, I mean, who is going to watch this anyway? But I will hang in there. I mean, who knows, right? Maybe it'll work out after all. Okay, so have you ever left a fairly important meeting and been like, I forgot to say a lot of things or ask a lot of questions? Oh no. Well, I guess I will. Fortunately, making my own videos about my own responses, experiences, and what feelings I have left, I don't have to worry about that because I can just tack this on, as the sign would go, to the end of my previous painfully long video, of which I will. So, I did want to add a point or two. So, the first is that I recognize that it's pretty easy to just dismiss Dr. Conley and Megan. Oh, they're just stupid. They're young. They don't know what's going on. Very inexperienced. Sure, yes, maybe on all counts. However, the reality is that y'all all, as a practice for neurooptometry and also vision therapy, previously trusted one another in some context, particularly professionally enough, and respected the quality of work that they provided for you at said practice, that you A, didn't fire them, because Texas is right to work, and B, you shared a practice together. So, I mean, these are people who, if they sue your entire practice because these people sucked, like, you could bear the brunt of that. So you shared a practice with these people. That's a way of saying that you signed off on their work and thought highly enough of them to do so in some form or fashion. So, I mean, like, they might be stupid, but also they're not completely retarded, or else they wouldn't have the degrees. Moving on. It bears mentioning, though I did mention this to UT Southwestern in the neuro-ophthalmology appointment because I had a neurooptometry and a neuro-ophthalmology. They both went stupid because the guy gave me an even stronger script than what I had with a base out 3 and said, yeah, prisms and vision therapy. This should work. It's your personal fault. Oh, thank you for letting me know. Another reason for the videos, to let everyone know it's not actually my personal fault. I've been trying. I've been doing everything that everyone has asked me to do, and all I've gotten is this, or more of this, or whatever. Like, nothing that's an actual consistent parallel and in focus eye gaze with any depth. Must be a personal problem, I'm sure. So let's go back to the year 2015. In 2015 to 2017, I had a bunch of weird symptoms, which no one has really cared about, and most of them have largely resolved. But there were 2 that went together, and I find them interesting. My eyes were very blurry, including like reading at near. Granted, I wasn't aware that being highly myopic, consider removing your glasses. But since I was so myopic, if I did remove my glasses, we had to be real close, so that wasn't really going to work out either. But for like a couple of years, I took to reading with just my right eye because it has always, for me, felt and been like the weaker eye, regardless of its slightly lower script than the, or refractive error, if you will, than the left. But I just kind of feel, oh, okay, this is it. And in addition to having the everything is blurry, I don't feel like my glasses are showing me what I want while driving the car, nor while reading up close work. I also had this like chronic low back pain out of total nowhere. I mean, it was just burning and aching, and sometimes it would go to my hips, but not like the hip bone, like the bulky hip muscle, down through the side of the thighs. So yeah, sure, IT band, but the side of the thighs is a little bit more complicated than just, oh, it's your IT band. In addition, my shoulders and upper back, I mean, eventually my whole back. And I was teaching a lifeguarding class because that was my professional career at the time. I taught and still have the legal capacity to teach both lifeguards and also lifeguard instructors, among so many other things, including pool operators, etc. So aquatics and fitness, my field. And there is a move that a lifeguard, can perform where the victim has somehow earned themselves a head, neck, or back injury in deep water, and they've sunk, so they're submerged. The lifeguard is responsible for stabilizing their head, their neck, and at least their thoracic spine, with the hope that the water gently helps support the victim as you rotate them and surface. And you do that in such a fashion that the victim's face will break the surface first. So if I'm holding somebody's head and chin here, and their neck is at my wrists, and their T-spine is being clamped front and back with my forearms, we're going to be stabilized first, and then I'm going to swim them in a circle so that their face breaks the surface first. And it's a very slow, gentle procedure. So it's unfortunate for the victim on the assumption that they're conscious. Then they might very well get some water up their nose, be sputtering, but they will not be any more paralyzed than they had already done to themselves. That is the point. Granted, on a side note, if the lifeguard has adequate reason to suspect that the person is not breathing is a whole other can of worms. And so sucks about your spinal injury. They're going to essentially get ripped out of the water because it is more critical that the victim receive what's going to quickly become CPR. So, this being said, I am 2 standards above a lifeguard. So you have a lifeguard instructor, and then you have a lifeguard instructor trainer. There's few of us in the Metroplex, and I am one of them currently. The amount of time that I have spent both lifeguarding and also training and certifying lifeguards and instructors is well over a decade, probably going on at least 15 years for guarding. So cool for me. This was during the last semester of coursework, except it was a summer that I did it for my master's. So as I was getting my master's, I took a lifeguarding class, and it changed my life and career forever. And got me in shape. That's great, right? But, which is also interesting because, you really have to know where you are in space with your body and the water, because it's different than land. I'll let that hang in the air or float in the water with my eyes. But, okay. So, all this being said, the instructor trainer, so someone with more years experience than myself, because I know the person and how long they've been in the industry, and also someone with the same level of credentialing as myself, we were demonstrating the results of the skill in the water. So he swims over to me, I'm the victim, we submerge together so that I have adequate oxygen, don't have to hold my breath too long, and he does the rescue, and I'm the person that grades the rescue, so I can feel that he has performed the rescue absolutely perfectly. This is the standard of the American Red Cross, and it is fine, and it is very gentle. And it feels like my low back is ripping in half. Weird, especially because at the time, still very strong. There's nothing wrong with my back at all now or previously, other than the severe neck arthritis. Okay. So at that time I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is it. Like, it feels like my back is ripping in half, and I know that he did the rescue correctly. I'm legitimately going to have to change careers because this is insustainable for me. If I am teaching, I have to sit or stand intermittently because I can't do long bouts of standing because of low back pain. There's no rhyme or reason to it, but that's just, I guess this is over 30 because that was the case at the time. I was significantly younger. But okay, I just accepted that this is being old. However, for a different set of reasons, also, we talked about pain. Now we're going to talk about vision. In recognizing that maybe I'm not going to be able to sustain this type of physical activity, but certified pool operator courses, of which I am also able to teach through the formerly NSPF, they're now the PHTA. It's a pool organization. It doesn't matter. Nobody's watching these videos anyway. But through the organization, since it's a lot of heavy lecture and calculations, then as the presenter, I have the option to sit, stand, walk around, take breaks as I see fit and as the students require. So I decided I was going to transition more into let's teach more CPO classes because this is physiologically sustainable for me. And okay, wonderful, that's working. But I noticed when I would need to score the exams at the end of the day, so visualize me lecturing a small 20-person classroom at 4 or 5 tables or so. I just, everything up close for, trying to score the exams, it was so blurry and undefined I couldn't see it. So eventually, if I had contacts, I'd have to take those out and then hold it real close to my face to be able to see it. If I was wearing distance glasses, because I had not had any bifocals after like 8 years old, until then, then I just take my distance glasses off and have my face real close so that I could score everybody's exams, put my glasses on to address them and say, well, you passed, or we should have a discussion. So the changing from distance was obviously a thing. And I didn't really have any other support other than looking through the machine with the hot air balloon and, this is your prescription. We'll do the phoropter just to verify, but this is your prescription. Here you go. Okay. So here I am with this inexplicable severe low back pain, which would mean something if I was like, the overweight fat American, but I was working in fitness and in at least moderately good quality athletic shape. All of these skills were practiced, and here I am saying that I'm having severe pain with X amount of sitting, standing, laying. It didn't really make a difference. Oh no, why is this happening? Oh well, I guess this is over 30, and also I can't see anything, particularly toward the end of the day, depending upon what I'm doing and what visual range it's in. Okay, well, eventually some of my other symptoms became so significant, and by other symptoms I mean that I began over time, but it snowballed, only eating carbs. I mean, I couldn't drive by a convenience store without like running in and getting a bunch of crap. And it was like I'd get back to the car with my $30 worth of 7-Eleven snacks, and it was like I didn't know it hit me. Very odd. And there's snacks in the car, there's snacks in the pantry and the fridge, and I did my best to hold my own self at bay and not to eat them all the time, but I wasn't eating any quality produce or meat, grain, like it's just all really poor quality carbs. And I and also statistics feel that developing an eating disorder in your mid to late 30s is definitely odd, especially out of nowhere and with no underlying related psychiatric conditions like anxiety or depression. It was just like, I only eat carbs and it is compulsive and it is ruining my life and it's coming out of nowhere. Someone do something because I cannot live like this anymore. So I made rational decisions of I'm going to talk to my doctor about, can you give me anything? And I'm going and had already contacted an eating disorder specialized individual psychotherapist because my God, I'm all hands on deck. I can't live like this anymore. Great. So I began taking a medication known as Contrave. They don't really give it to people who were already thin because I was already still pretty thin or athletic really. But my doctor had kind of seen me struggling and trying to find a bunch of solutions to other problems, and she said, well, okay, let's try this. And the components are naltrexone, which is an opioid blocker, of which I've never had any problems with opioids. Let's put that on the table. And then also Wellbutrin, which is an NDRI, and also previously used with meh success as a smoking cessation medication. Lots of those people also suddenly wanted to kill themselves. As a person who's never smoked, this was not a problem, but it does bind to nicotinic receptors and such. And also, it's, according to Wikipedia and the manufacturer's website, it's an NDRI, so it interacts with your norepinephrine and also your dopamine, which is interesting because it turns out that those things also work on a few different concepts. I mean, we talk about like, oh, it's your hormones with moodiness, and we think sex hormones, as testosterone, etc. But actually, it's all hormones. Ghrelin is a hormone. Norepinephrine is a hormone. Insulin is it's all hormones in addition to the sex hormones, etc. So when we talk about hormones and endocrinology, someone somewhere knows what we do. But really, most people, including endocrinologists that are just, basic practicing, because they're just, oh, endocrinologists deal with diabetes, because that's who you're going to be working with the most. If it's not diabetes, then it's going to be Hashimoto's, other more common things that you're going to run across. And they don't really need a comprehensive understanding of the rest of how all the hormones work. But even though we think of these as like things that deal with psychotropic medications or psychotherapy related stuff, these are still hormones. Your hormones are actually what make you you, and they come from different areas. So some, as I described, are secreted by the pancreas, others by the thyroid. Then you've got the pituitary gland. So they're all over the whole body. It literally makes you you. So, Contrave, they have you, step up, because we don't want to do anything too sudden, too fast. Respect. My body doesn't like that anyway. Looking at you, base out 3 prism glasses. But, so it's, 1 week at a quarter dose, then half, and, all the way up to the full dose. In 3 days at a quarter dose, not only had most of my symptoms totally subsided, but also my low back pain just went away. I mean, not, perfectly away, but I mean, it mostly went away. And then by probably 2 or 3 weeks, it was just gone. It was not a thing. Well, but did you change your workout? Did you change your diet? No. I took a medication that happens to involve how your body interacts with norepinephrine and also dopamine. And dopamine, it turns out, has a lot to do with muscles. Also, so does norepinephrine. I mean, all of these things are related because the body is an interactive system. But I feel like I need to point that out, that, okay, muscle stuff was a thing for me. Well, but Bethany, why don't you just go back and take this medication? I'm considering asking my doctor if it's a possibility. However, genetically, I've had like the little genetic test of what do you respond well to? Well, I don't respond well to this, and it's actually a miracle that we had any luck with it at all. Unfortunately, it worked extremely well when it did work, and then it just petered out, and that was it. And we tried to bump up the dosage as much as we could safely, because there's a threshold, particularly with the Wellbutrin, where if you bump it up too much, you run the risk of having a different muscular symptom or neuromuscular symptom of having a seizure. Well, nobody wants that. I don't want that. So, there's a threshold where we can't bump it up anymore. We're not getting any positive results through pretty large doses. Let's switch to something else, which is what my doctor decided that we were going to do, and it has mostly worked largely well. This being said, when I began the Wellbutrin, it was like, oh my gosh, not only has all my low back pain disappeared, but I can see, like, my visual symptoms, like, this shit's not blurry. We're good. Like, I don't have to take my glasses off. I can read the newspaper with both eyes open and my glasses off. Like, great. So I was, great, I'm done. This miracle, I need this. It has solved the problems. Cool. And granted, then also it's kind of phased us out. So in 2019, I changed medications to a different medication that was more tailored to the original primary presenting symptoms of binge eating disorder. Excellent. It still largely does serve its function, but the visual stuff kind of disappeared, and I felt like, okay, well, I'm not having as much visual success and clarity as I did before. Starting to feel unsure about where everything is. I don't feel like I'm reaching that aha and we're done moment, because I mean, I've been going to the ophthalmologist and the optometrist since I was extremely young. When you're behind the foreopter, you reach, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, etc. And you reach this and we're done, because you can see through the phoropter as well as you expect to regularly see throughout all of your life. You've reached a certain aha moment of clarity, and once you reach that, then you know you're good. You don't necessarily need it to be any, stronger or whatever. You just need to make sure that you can see as well as you usually have chronologically been able to expect all of your life with the corrective wear that you have had. So, in 2019, not having this experience and being duly frustrated, that's when I got referred to technically your practice. It just happened to be Dr. Conley who was subbing that day, with his famous words of, in response to my question, so you've seen this before, right? Like, we're good, you can do this, there's hope. He was like, yeah, we see this sometimes with adults, but you're not presenting as you should. I think I want to use you for a case study. And I want to have all of my vision stuff paid back to me for all the time and finances wasted, but we can both dream. Moving on. So then we do a lot of vision therapy, etc. None of it goes very well, as you saw in the beginning part of this video when I had the macaron pants. But I feel it bears pointing out that those, among other neurotransmitters in varying degrees and amounts, also affect eye and visual responses. So we're going to let that hang in the air and be like, I took a medication that does stuff to your dopamine, which does stuff to your muscles, and similarly the norepinephrine to kind of your muscles, but also kind of like your responses physiologically. And suddenly I had okay vision. And then it didn't work anymore, and I no longer had okay vision. Well, there is a thing. In the past, let's see, it's 2022, I'd say the past year, because we all got the COVID vaccines, right? And, first shot, it's like, I feel kind of weird, but I guess we're okay. And the second shot, it was like, oh God, everything hurts and I'm dying, but I'm fine and I'm not dying. The body aches and body pains from the COVID shot. Or I've been in the MRI machine many times, and it goes, so when you're in the MRI machine and you can feel it, and everyone else says, no, we just lay there, we feel nothing. I can feel it. I assume it has something to do with my electrolytes and calcium responses, because those are all related to extremely trace metals. And sure, the machine is changing the polarity on all of your little molecules or whatever in your body. But I mean, I can feel it. It's like my muscles are trying to engage, even though I am super zen and programming fitness classes and my grocery lists, and I am very relaxed, but I can feel like there's this burning, this aching, particularly in my hips and my back, as though I physically can't relax, even though mentally I'm like, doing good, we're gonna get through this machine, and then I'm gonna go to Target and get me some Starbucks. But the machine is doing things to me, so I'm like, well, okay, I'll just relax as best I can, at least in my mind, because I'm fine. This is weird, but I'm sure it's fine. It's gotta be like this for other people. It turns out that it's not. Oh, okay, well, but I haven't been told that this is how this goes, so obviously I must have dreamed this. Fine. So, obviously when it comes to calcium and mineral deposits and metal-y stuff and neurotransmitters, which are hormones, everything kind of behaves weird. Well, but Bethany, you've had all the MRIs, you've had a million blood tests. What are all your hormones and, brain and stuff like? They are normal. There is not really any clear flags that say, oh, here's your Hashimoto's, here's your whatever it is. Those are not things. So it doesn't really give my treating physicians or specialists a whole lot to work with as far as, well, let's try something, because there isn't anything to try if they're not getting any obvious, perhaps it's this, signals out of the objective tests and measurements. So, all this to say, there was a time where I took medication and it solved the problem because those hormones interact with your vision. And that time has since passed, and of course now I don't have any clear vision at all, but I had it at one time, and I had it directly in response to a medication that was prescribed for me. Someone should be told this, because hey, just in case it's not my personal fault, maybe something could be done. Maybe there's some other dopaminergic medication that I could take that would be beneficial. I'm totally going to ask my PCP the next time that I go and see him, which is going to be on Thursday. He does a mandatory blood draw every 3 months that I come and see him, and he checks for everything, hormones, how's the rest of your blood, how's your thyroid, how's your liver and pancreas and all your major organs, how are they doing, how are they functioning, is there anything weird, do you have an increase in white blood cells that might signal cancer, all of the things to just kind of check in and make sure that you're doing okay before he refills your scripts. And I feel very confident that he will tell me that I'm fine. But hey, my crappy blurry vision that is uncontrollable despite being an adult and doing my best and religiously adhering to vision therapy skills, which are showing no signs of even rocky progress, I just felt like this was worth mentioning to someone. Okay, obviously had a hard time thinking during the previous vision therapy skills, of which I have already recorded, and none of that has, fixed itself. I have been so weird from my lack of ability to focus and, frontal lobe function in my brain that I appear like just about borderline blind and retarded. It is fabulous, and I cannot get anyone to help me, except for she just doesn't understand. She just needs to do the Brock string correctly. I see the merit in the Brock string. I am definitely trying. I have personal misgivings about how these glasses are going, but since I have been informed that these are the correct glasses and I will shut up and like them, I will pretend to like them for the comfort of everybody else, and I will definitely shut up and wear them as well. So now everyone has been informed about everything that I think that they could use to help me with my visual symptoms. I know that no one except for my BFF is going to watch any of these videos because she loves me very much. So thanks, Sara. I'll just leave it with that.